Okay. Okay, boys and girls, over the next couple weeks, we're going to be talking about food webs and food chains. So, what I'm going to be doing is, in school, I always start with a PowerPoint to get you guys what you need to know. So, today I'm going to post a PowerPoint, and then you're going to see my links include some practice worksheets. I'm going to have video links and games that you guys can practice on food chains and food webs. So all this will be up for a couple weeks. And then eventually, after I feel you guys are doing well, I'm going to post a quiz on Google Form so I know if I'm ready to move on to the next subject or not. Okay, so follow along. So food webs in the ecosystem. Okay, so this is our last big chunk in our science book. Organisms are considered to be living things. There's some that are non-living things. The two big categories of organisms that are living are producers and consumers. A producer creates their own energy. That's like plants. Consumers is everything else that eats other animals or objects to get their energy, or they eat producers. So an organism is a living thing. There's two types, a producer and a consumer. A producer, like I said, is an organism that creates their own energy. They do this through photosynthesis. So producer begins with a P, so does photosynthesis. That's how I always remember it. A consumer is an organism that must eat to get their energy. Okay, so it's everything but plants. Types of consumers that get their energy from eating other animals. It can be an herbivore. They eat plants only. A carnivore eats only animals. And an omnivore, like us human beings, eat plants and animals. So those are the three types of consumers. So when we talk about food webs, here's an example of an herbivore that only eats plants, a lovely zebra. An omnivore that eats a combination is a monkey. A carnivore that only eats animals is a fox. There's so many more of these that you guys can Google, different types of carnivores and herbivores and omnivores. You will not need to know specifically if I name an animal, what is it? Okay, that's a hard thing to memorize. And then at the end of food chains, we have a decomposer. Okay, this is what breaks down dead organisms and returns those nutrients to the soil. It's the end of all food chains. Okay, kind of like fungi. We'll talk about more examples. There's also a scavenger. Okay, that would be like a vulture. They eat animals that are already dead, and that's how they get their energy. Not a lot of scavengers in the world, but again, you guys can Google some types of real life scavengers. So now we're going to take a look at a food chain. It's important when I ask you to make your own food chain or to analyze the food chain in front of you. The arrows represent the transfer of energy. Okay, so in this example, the food chain starting with the sunlight gives photosynthesis to that lovely plant. That's how that plant gets that energy. And who eats that acorn is the squirrel. So if I ask who's getting that energy at the end, the squirrel is getting the most because it's getting energy from that acorn and the sunlight. So you follow the arrows to the right. So if you guys want to kind of practice at home making your own food chains in real life examples around you, that would be wonderful. Energy for all food chain always begins with the sun. Okay, so that's really important. That's what drives that energy at the beginning of food chains, and it's through photosynthesis. Plants get energy from the sun. That oak tree that made the acorn is a producer. It makes its own energy. The squirrel then gets the energy from the acorn. And therefore, if I asked you on a quiz, who's the consumer? Okay, technically the acorn is not the consumer, it's a producer. It's not consuming the sun. The squirrel